The Chicago Bears have been battling injuries all season, but here's the real question: are reinforcements finally on the way? After the bye week, Chicago has a huge chance to get healthy at just the right time. The schedule works in their favor too, since their next game isn't until Monday Night Football in Week 6. That extra rest could mean several key players return. Before we get into the latest news, make sure to subscribe to the channel, drop a like, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a Bears update. Now, let's get into it. Let's start with Kyler Gordon. The cornerback was close to playing against the Raiders. He even practiced in a limited role and dropped some hints online that made it look like he was ready. But the team kept him inactive, playing it safe. Now, unless there's an unexpected setback, Gordon is expected to return after the bye, and that would be a massive boost. Gordon brings flexibility the defense desperately needs. He can cover slot receivers, handle tight ends, support against the run, and even blitz when called upon. His impact stretches across every part of the defense, and getting him back changes the entire outlook. And here's the thing: Kyler Gordon may not be the only player coming back. Another key name could be suiting up soon, and that news could fire up Bears fans even more. Nick McLeod has done his job as a backup. He's competed hard, played tough on special teams, and given solid effort in coverage. Sure, the numbers aren't eye-popping, but you can't expect star-level production from a backup nickel corner in the NFL. Still, there's one area where the Bears clearly miss Kyler Gordon: his physicality. Gordon doesn't just cover, he hits. He can step up against the run, deliver big tackles, and even be sent on blitzes to shake things up. That's the edge he brings, and why his return after the bye feels so important. Now, let's shift to TJ Edwards. The linebacker has been sidelined since Week 2 after tweaking his hamstring again. He hasn't practiced at all since, which raises real questions about whether he'll be ready when the Bears face Washington in Week 6. By then, it'll have been about a month since the injury, right around the usual recovery window for a mild hamstring strain. If it's a minor one, he could be back. But if it's more serious, the wait might stretch a little longer. In his absence, Noah Sewell has stepped in and held his ground. He's been reliable against the run, showing toughness and power in the box. Coverage, however, isn't his strength, and that's where Edwards is missed most. Getting him back would help balance the defense and give Chicago more stability at linebacker. And here's the kicker: Edwards isn't the only one whose status is uncertain. Another name on the injury list could have a huge say in how the Bears look moving forward. Noah Sewell deserves credit. He stepped in with toughness, made key stops, and even forced a fumble on 4th down against Green Bay that gave the Bears a little extra push. Plays like that show his impact, especially in run defense. Still, his weakness is clear: he struggles in coverage, where TJ Edwards' instincts give him the edge. The gap between Sewell and Edwards isn't huge, though. It's much smaller than the drop-off the Bears feel when Kyler Gordon is missing. That's why if Edwards needs more time, Chicago can manage for now. But let's get to the bigger question: who matters more to have back, Kyler Gordon or TJ Edwards? For me, the answer is simple. Gordon changes games. His presence tightens up the secondary and adds a level of versatility the defense can't replace. Now, there's another situation Bears fans are watching closely: Darnell Wright. The offensive tackle is dealing with an elbow injury and hasn't practiced, which raises two huge questions. First, when will he be fully healthy? Second, where will he line up once he's back? The coaching staff has been evaluating all their linemen, and there's been talk of Ozzy Trapilo getting more snaps. That opens the door for potential changes in alignment. But here's one thing that's beyond doubt: right now, Darnell Wright is the best offensive tackle on this roster. He was a top 10 pick for a reason. Yes, penalties have been an issue, and conditioning might not be where coaches want it. But purely based on talent, he's the anchor of this offensive line. And here's the twist: Wright's return could shake up the entire tackle rotation, leaving fans wondering who's going to play where once he's back on the field. Let's keep the injury talk rolling, because the Bears have a couple more players who could be ready to return after the bye. One of the most important names is Grady Jarrett. He's been battling a knee issue and sat out in Week 4, but he did manage to play in Weeks 2 and 3. With the extra time to rest, there's optimism that he'll be good to go in Week 6. Still, he's a veteran player, so keeping an eye on how that knee responds will be key. Then there's Colston Loveland. The Bears have been clear that his injury isn't serious, but they still decided to hold him out before the bye just to be cautious. That was a smart move, and now the expectation is that he should be ready to roll for the next game. Loveland is interesting because even before the injury, his role in the offense was expanding quickly. He was getting more snaps, more opportunities, and showing signs that he could become an important part of the passing attack moving forward. The potential return of both Jarrett and Loveland adds even more momentum to the Bears' recovery story. But there's still another layer to this, because one more player on the list could have the biggest impact of all. Colston Loveland is someone the Bears absolutely need to get more involved in the passing game. Yes, he's valuable as a blocker in both run support and pass protection, but you don't draft a player in the top 10 just to keep him in the trenches. His skill set demands opportunities. With his size, athleticism, and upside, Loveland should be used as a real weapon in this offense. Now, let's move to another important name, Austin Booker. The rookie edge rusher was placed on short-term IR after suffering a knee injury in the preseason. But he's eligible to return when the Bears take on Washington, and the timing feels perfect. By then, it'll be nearly 2 months since the injury, which makes it realistic to expect him back on the field. The Bears are likely to open his practice window, see how he responds, and if all goes well, activate him to the 53-man roster. And here's why his return matters. Booker was electric in the preseason. In just 2 games, he put up 5 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, and even forced a fumble. Sure, it was against backups, but the explosiveness and raw talent were undeniable. And let's be honest, this defensive line needs serious help. Through 4 games, Chicago has only 5 total sacks, and not a single player has more than 1. That's simply not good enough. Even more frustrating, the Bears are paying big money for production that isn't showing up. Montez Sweat is making $25 million per year, DeMarcus Walker is at $16 million, and together they've produced the same sack numbers as rotational players like Dominique Robinson and Tano Passanyan. That's a major problem. Which is why Booker's potential return could be more than just depth, it could be the spark this pass rush has been missing. Austin Booker could end up being a real spark for this defensive line. And honestly, the Bears need it badly. It would be one thing if the pass rush wasn't producing, but at least the unit was shutting down the run. The reality is worse. Chicago is dead last in the NFL in run defense. That's why their win over the Raiders, even after allowing 240 yards on the ground, feels almost shocking. The only reason they survived is because the secondary has been stepping up big these past couple of weeks. Another name eligible to return is Travis Homer, but his situation is very different. He's not a player you're leaning on to fix the offense. His value comes mostly on special teams and occasionally as a pass protection back on 3rd downs. With DeAndre Swift and Roscoe Johnson handling the main workload, Homer's role would be limited. The challenge for the Bears is figuring out where to make room. If they bring Homer back to the 53-man roster, someone else has to go. Do they move on from a depth linebacker? Do they shuffle around the defensive line? Nothing about that decision is simple, and unless special teams suddenly needs a big lift, there may not be an obvious reason to rush him back. The bigger focus remains clear: the Bears need answers on the defensive front, and whether it's Booker or another emerging player, somebody has to step up and change the tone for this unit. And speaking of change, there's one last piece of news that could have a huge impact on how this team looks moving forward.